What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. We got another episode of Dr. Homebrew. This is the Wet Hop Show. We have two commercial wet hop beers to drink, and then Brian Shaw is going to lead us through a little wet hop hop talk, whatever that means. I'm excited for this. So welcome to the show. It's wet hop season, and you're going to be seeing these wet hop beers pop up until I feel like we should definitely give you a little rundown about what a wet hop beer is, what it isn't, and what they taste like and what they shouldn't taste like, to be honest with you. Because wet hop beers, there was a lot of bad wet hop beers in like the late 90s, early 2000s. It was just like
there sure were
steeping sticks in wort and then drinking it. You're like, no, that's not what this is. But I feel like the science and the technology and the drive has all advanced the style kind of forward, and they're really good. So we're going to be going through
drink
that.
some stick water.
Well, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
who doesn't? You know what
I mean, the concept always sounded good to me because it's fresh hops, like right from a field, and it sounds like it should be a good thing. And
and I think like sometimes it can be on the brewer too, honestly, because I think it could be it can sort of push the limits of what a brewer can do with the hops. You know what I mean? I mean, we're so used to the pellets or flat or the dried flowers and how those work with the system. But once a year, and only once a year, this is not a Men's Warehouse commercial, but you get to try your hand at brand new flavors
and
that you have never done before. And so you get one or two shots at it, and that's it. And it's really expensive.
You're getting an agricultural product, and you don't know what it is really. Like it hasn't been analyzed. It doesn't. You don't know the alpha acids and stuff. So it's like, well, let's brew with this, and it's that's such a home brewer / craft brewer thing to do.
It is. Yeah,
a lot of them are getting really good at it. So let's have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. What should we do first? Let's tell you what. Let's drink one of these beers. And then maybe we can talk a little bit about it, and then we'll figure out where we'll just drink the other one at the same time, or I don't know. We're gonna play it fast and loose today, everybody. Like we're not really gonna be too wild about it. So what beer should we drink first? What do we have first of all?
Well, we've got a Brian selected a Altamont Maui Wowie wet hopped IPA.
Okay,
and it's made with hops from Thompson Farms over in Tracy, California. And it's I believe it's cashmere.
There's a hop farm in Tracy.
Yeah,
I just learned that from the can.
Wow, man.
And then there is
look that up quick. And these are the two wet hop beers they had at the Hop Grenade like about a week ago when I went in. I'm like, hey, we're doing wet hop beers, and they got two here. That's what we're gonna have for the show.
Yeah, the other one is called Scissor Hash, and it's from Ghost Town. It's a Strata fresh hop beer IPA. This one's a little stronger, so I'd say probably start with the Maui and go to the slightly stronger one. The Maui's 6.5%.
Okay.
Than the local hops, and so that's I've had it at the brewery and in the cans. I bought a few cans of it.
Nice.
Just because it's such a fun little twist on a beer that I do sip on the regular. And
so their Maui was a Maui Wowie is what it's called.
Maui Wowie. Yeah.
This is like their flagship beer, right?
Yeah.
This is the beer they're known for.
The flagship.
This is the one you can get on tap pretty routinely in the Bay Area, and they have it at Costco a lot. Before we move on to this beer, though, I want to, if you want to look at this Thompson Hops Farm, it's THOMSEN hops.com. They've got a website, and they're signing contracts for 2024 wet hops, and they have some interesting varieties here. Like, I've never heard of Vista or Bitter Gold or Triumph. They've got some of those in addition to the usual, Cashmere, Centennial, Chinook, CTZ.
We should try to plan a Dr. Homebrew outing.
That would be fun. That would be kind of a neat thing to do. We should
meet you guys out there.
Yeah. It's not that far from any of us, really. We're already out in the East Bay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Tracy's within an hour reach of each of us.
So that's good. They also, it's in this Maui Wowie, but they have a web page of customers.
Uh-oh. Our presenter crashed.
Yeah, hang on, Char. Yeah, I have a feeling he'll come back. I feel a feeling he has to reboot or something like that. So, yeah, there he is. There he is.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
you were
Sorry,
talking about
I had a
the
little
Thompson
internet blip there, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you're good, man.
the
it would be fun
website.
to have a little outing. And
Yeah.
looking at their customer page for Thompson hops, they supply not just to Altamont, but they're also a supplier to, among others, Ghost Town.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
BJ's and a couple other places that aren't
Yep.
around anymore. But
Moonraker, side gate right here in Concord.
yeah, that's cool, man. Look at that.
Well, this
Four
whole
Legs
area.
Brewing. That's out in Brentwood. See, look at
Yeah.
that. We got a bunch of local folks. I love
Yeah.
it.
This
I think it's
region used
cool.
to be, Pleasanton used to have tons of hop farms out there, and I mean, there were a lot more hops grown here. That the Pacific Northwest was playing second fiddle to us then, probably, I think. But yeah,
I mean, there's a reason why there's that exit off of 580 for wherever that freeway is, for Hop Yard Boulevard. I mean,
680, yeah.
Yeah, 680. Yeah, it's there because that used to be a hop yard.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
100
so they have
years ago.
pellets too. I don't know why we're doing an ad. We're doing an ad for Thompson, but
No, I
they
just
do
never heard
pellets,
of them
not just fresh hops.
until the
Yeah,
can.
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, well, we should do an outing, man. That would be cool.
Yeah, maybe we can try to contact them, do a little rubbing.
An
Yeah,
on
that'd be nice.
location Dr. Homebrew recording with them.
I don't want to do that.
I'm down.
We probably could do a remote.
Just get
Anyway, whatever. Let's talk about the beer. So I cracked this beer. IPAs unfortunately are going to be the featured wet hop, style. I think.
Yeah,
It's not my thing. I don't know. I remember. I seem to remember like when wet hop became a thing. It was like red ales or something like that. Something with a lot more caramel malts and sort of like rich beers. I don't remember it being light like this. So I wonder what that's about. If it's a technology thing where we just figured out how to get a lot of the good benefits of wet hops, out, so we don't have to have a heavier beer to hide a lot of these weird flavors behind, or what that's about.
Maybe it has to do with people just acquiring more skill for how to use the ingredients and how to make the style. It's like hazy IPA. I know you hate them, and at the very beginning, I think a lot of them were just trash. But people figured out how to make them that weren't like just sludge, and it's just a matter of learning how to work with your materials to get them to the end state you want them to be.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, let's run through this beer, this Maui Wowie. I don't know if I've ever had this beer in the first place. So, Cooper, you mainline this stuff.
The regular Maui,
you're going to have to be our kind of spirit guide through this.
Okay. Well, a regular Maui is like a tropical citrus. It's a Mosaic Citra IPA, and very aromatic, very high hop usage, low bitterness. Just a good, clean, modern IPA with a lot of tropical and citrus hop character to it. In the nose, but not on the heaviest side for IPAs, like 6.5% and clean and drinkable.
Yeah, this one's right at 6.5%
ABV. Very dry, and very light on the malt. Just kind of a modern IPA, low bitterness out of the way, and never hazy. They don't do hazies there.
They don't do hazies there?
No, make beer clear again is one of their slogans over there.
Okay. All right. Well, see, now I can be a fan of theirs.
Yeah.
What I like about this is a very bitter beer. It's not one of these IBU bombs from the 90s, but there's high bitterness here, and the hop aroma and hop flavor character is, I'm not going to call it muted, but it's definitely different from like the normal, the standard hopped Maui Wowie. I think you definitely get, part of the thing with the wet hopping is getting more of the essential oils, and it's almost, it's not diacetyl slick. It's almost oily in a good way in the mouth, if that makes sense. I'm just kind of...
It's almost what?
Almost a little oily, but in a good way. Because I think you're getting a ton of the hop oils in this style of beer.
Oily.
It's not vegetal.
Oily. like
maybe
slick.
maybe I'm imagining things. It's not
No,
diagonal.
no. I think I'm that's me trying to process what you said into like my vocabulary. So I guess I
It's
can
got
get
a lot of
slick,
body. Yeah.
where a lot of times in beers, you have that carbonation, and
Yeah.
you taste the stuff and the carbonation's underneath, but this does definitely feel like it almost separates a little bit,
Yeah.
where it's like the beer and then the carbonation. So maybe that's
That could
something, I
be.
don't know.
That could be. And there's a little bit of like we were talking a moment ago about how people are getting much better at figuring out how to use the ingredients. There's a little vegetal character, but it's pleasant, right? It's not like you're eating a tree. And the I'm it does have a slight grassiness. In preparing for the show, I was reading some about these wet hop beers, and Vinny at Russian River talks about how wet hop beers can present kind of grassy, like a Sauvignon Blanc, where Sauvignon Blanc, you want it to be grassy. It's not like you're out there licking your lawnmower, but there's a different type of grassy character. I wouldn't say this is that, but I can see it maybe heading in that direction. If
Right.
that makes sense.
You can taste a little bit more of the plant matter than just all the
Right.
lupulin glands, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, and I
Without being
think
stick water.
maybe we'll talk about that in your write up, Shar. But that I think is the differentiator. Maybe we should have started with that. Like, what is the difference between the flavors that you're going to get from a wet hop beer versus the flavors you're going to get from an isolated, pellet or cryo hops or whatever? And I think that's what it is. It is more of, like you're saying, Cooper, the more of the plant matter, but in a pleasant way, but also very subdued. I think, like Shar's kind of extolling right now, where there's a difference, but if you do it right, it's not really super noticeable.
Right.
But it does ride your palate kind of all the way through.
Yeah. And as we'll get to in the talk, obviously the act of drying the hops changes them a lot. You have to dry them, and to store them and use them at a brewery. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. They're going to go bad. So, you want to, this kind of a beer, it's going to be a different, maybe fresher character that includes more of the oils that are in the natural hop as it's plucked from the vine. So, but I'd say I tried growing my own hops and it failed miserably. But for people that can actually have the green thumb and can get it going, hey, this is a good a fall brew to do if you have
like
that.
How do you fail at growing hops? It's a weed.
Yeah.
What varietal were you trying to grow?
Oh, I had bunch of sea hops, like
Okay.
I had a Columbus and some Cascade, and
Were you just not watering? See, now I'm interested. Were you
Yeah.
not watering them enough?
pretty much, yeah.
Oh yeah, because they need like a gallon a day or something.
Yeah, I wasn't watering them enough.
Okay, damn, bro.
Oh, well.
Sorry. R.I.P. to your hops.
You couldn't grow hops in one of the major hop growing areas of the U.S.
Right.
So I don't know, man.
Well, I thought,
that
well,
sounds
it's
like a you
it's
problem.
just a weed. It's a vine. I don't have to really water
Yeah,
it.
get absolutely fucked, dude.
Nobody said, you have to water it a gallon every day. I wish you were.
That's a lot of water.
Yeah.
It is. It's a ton of water, dude.
Before I knew JP. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Well, now you can try again.
Yeah.
Okay. I will.
When more beer gets the rhizomes, you can try again.
There's so much water they'll just rot on the ground, right?
That's happened to me. Oh well. Anyway, we'll get into
It's a delicate balance, I'm sure.
Well, Coop, why don't you talk about your impressions of this beer versus the normal beer, huh?
Well, I suspect, or I believe I heard somewhere that they had to use that it was a cashmere hop instead of the usual Strata Mosaic. So, which is going to give a little, kind of a tropical dank instead of just the tropical, like sharp citrus that you get with Citra Mosaic. And there is a little bit of a dank quality underneath it. A lot of that it's featured in a lot of their beers, and there's a hint of that in the Maui as well, I would say. But it's a complex thing. This has got a lot more of the dankness. There's a little melony quality to it, a little melon, and a little grassiness, but not not that enjoyable, not that awful kind of grassiness from just putting way too much dry hops in your beer. But it's an enjoyable one, like kind of the Sauv Blanc thing is a good comparison. It's supposed to be there. It seems like it is.
Yeah.
The body of the beer is the same as kind of regular Maui. It's nice and dry. But I could agree with the bitterness coming across as a little richer. And I think that, if you don't think you get bitterness from a big whirlpool, with all that plant matter in it, and they probably had to use a ton of those hops to get it to this level of hoppiness. You're gonna get a little bitterness from that. That's gonna boost the IBUs, or the perceived IBUs anyway.
For sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like this beer because it feels like the bitterness is a little bit more drawn out. It's not as focused. It's not in like a cone of like bitterness. It's all the way
Right.
across. It's a wider, it's like a 180 kind of
It's
thing.
not like that high alpha
I
bitterness
hear
that
what you're saying.
you're using Magnum to bitter, and all you're going for is the bitterness. You just boom, hit it with a bitter shot, this many IBUs, and it's just
It's
great alpha.
Yeah, it has a lot more on the edges, and it's consistent, and it's almost like you take that bitterness and you don't focus it, but you stretch it out. It's the same amount, and so you still get that same quality, but it feels like less bitterness, and there's more range of flavor. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I like it. I almost feel like an IPA is not a good focus for wet hop beers.
Oh, well, what would you use it in?
I would like a lower alcohol beer, one that's not going to be super killed with flavor and the bitterness and the alcohol burn. I would like to taste the nuances of the wet hops.
How about like a West Coast Pils or something?
Yeah, something like that, maybe.
Or a
Yeah,
pale
sure.
ale,
Pale
maybe?
ale, light, nice little pale ale. I wonder what like an English mild would be, or a best bitter
Yeah.
wet hop.
That's
I don't know,
unbelievable.
man.
Well, in preparing for the show, I learned that the wet hop beers got introduced to the US by Sierra Nevada about 20, 25 years ago, because Steve Dressler was in England, or somebody from England was visiting Sierra Nevada and was talking about making wet hop beers in the UK with UK hops, probably EKG, something like that.
Yeah.
And Dressler was like, "Oh, you mean using whole cones? We do that all the time." I like, "No, using them right at harvest. Taking them within 24 hours and putting them in." So, as far as I can tell, that's gonna be the first ones that were done in the U.S. I could easily be wrong. I'm not trying to.
No, it seems familiar now that you say that.
Northern Hemisphere Harvest beer, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to kiss up to Sierra. But in the core of what I've found, it seems to be like a lot of things. It was started in the UK and then made its way to America for our own American interpretation.
Here. Yeah, right.
Right. Amped up to 10 over here.
Yeah.
11.
But this goes to 11.
Yes.
Well, what do you think, Cooper? You're the shaman in this ayahuasca journey. What do you would you rather what's your opinion on this beer compared to the regular?
I enjoy it. I've bought a few 4-packs of it, and it's a nice experiment. It's maybe not my favorite wet hopped beer in the world, but it's the hop character is really interesting to me, and it's different from regular Maui, and but it plays nice. Sometimes I come to it, it's like, wow, that's so like it's like got that real edgy and like a little grassy and a little danky thing, but fresh. Like you can tell it's a fresh agricultural product coming in. It's like, wow, they had to have used a lot. I can appreciate it. I appreciate it for the art that it is, and I probably score it like a high 30s for sure. If I had to give it a score, 39 or something like that. It's
39. Wow,
it's got good.
Look at
good,
you.
Yeah. It's
okay.
Fresh. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I'd give it high 30s. Probably 37ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a taste, there's a flavor that kind of lingers on the palate for me that I instantly think like red ale. And maybe that's why I would want to see it in a different format. Maybe because my first like really favorite kind of wet hopped was a wet hop like Rogue, which I believe they did the Saint Rogue Red as a wet hop at one point.
So someone at the bar at Altamont who drinks Maui, right? Like that is all they pretty much drink. And they tried this beer, and they said, to me, it gave me kind of more of a malty impression than the regular Maui. I
It's got a
thought
little caramel
malty,
character.
that's interesting because
Yeah.
underneath
The
it's
caramel,
not
yeah.
toasty, or it shouldn't be caramelly, and I doubt there's any whiff of caramel malt in there. But it was just funny to hear that. I was like, wow, okay.
Well, I
And
wonder if they adjusted their malt bill to take for the wet hopping just based on experience. I wonder if that was something that was. I mean, do you think they didn't put any caramel in?
I'm sure they didn't. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just got to be
Okay.
Yeah,
base malt. Yeah,
I think it's just the flavors of that we don't normally get that are normally filtered out in a pellet form.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it's got to be something like that. I mean, you know, that stick, the soaked stick flavor.
Exactly.
Soaked
Yeah, cool
stick.
stuff. Char. Good job, man. I love
But
drinking.
yeah,
Okay, let's take a break. Let's come back and let's jump into what a wet hop beer is, what wet hops are, and you know, we'll go from there.
sounds good. Yeah.
All right. Hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back. All right. Thanks for sticking around, everyone. We are back. We're talking wet hop beers with Brian Shar. Shar has a little presentation, and after every paragraph, he's going to remove an article of clothing. So I'm excited about that. Shar, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm going to start with my socks, which may not be
All
so
right.
exciting for our 4 people watching on YouTube.
Hell yeah.
Although if I want to become a YouTuber, that might be the best or perhaps worst
Mm.
way to approach that. All right, wet hopping. Wet hop beers are something fun and exciting. It's that time of year. There's something that's done right about hop harvest, which is happening now or has happened in the past couple of weeks in most places. Wet hopping is pretty simple. It's just adding freshly picked hop cones to your beer within 24 hours of them being picked. Why 24 hours? Because if you wait more than 24 hours, they start to get moldy. And nobody wants moldy stuff in their beer.
No.
Malt, hops, whatever.
No.
So the wet hops are totally unprocessed. They're simply picked, put in like a bin, and then you put them directly into your kettle or whirlpool or wherever you want to use them in your process. So why do people do wet hopping? Well, drying the hops stops the molding. It preserves the hops, and you can preserve them as whole cones or preserve them for longer as pellets. You go on hop farm websites, you can find like 2020 Galaxy, 2021 Chinook, stuff like that. If you store it cold and you pelletize and it's dry, you can preserve those hops for a real long time, and they're still usable and still good. The problem with the drying process is that it evaporates a lot of the hop oils. It evaporates or modifies other flavors. So it reduces the, some of the flavor components of the hops. And that's the reason to wet hop, is to try to capture some of those flavor components. It can be a unique flavor profile. Like I was saying earlier, Vinny Chilurzo calls a lot of these wet hops grassy, like Sauvignon Blanc. Which I didn't quite get that from the Maui Wowie. We'll see about the scissor hash a little later.
Yeah, I mean that's such a wine
A
guy.
Vinny thing
Like
to
I
say,
come
yeah.
from wine, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna, such
Oh,
a
yeah.
Napa thing to say.
Oh yeah, and you get the aroma and the flavor from the oils and other components. You get like the linalool, the geraniol, the things other than alpha acid, and some of these flavor components, these oils, will survive the drying process. If they didn't, you wouldn't have hazy IPA, you wouldn't have juicy beers, you wouldn't have those things. But the idea is that some of those flavor components survive better as wet hops when they're just going right to your whirlpool, right to your kettle, than if you bake half of them off in a drying process. I've not read Stan Hieronymus's book, For the Love of Hops, but I found a quote from that book. I've met Stan. I've judged with Stan. He's a nice guy, and he's a smart dude, and I have no reason to doubt this. He cites research that shows that the essential oils increase and can change dramatically right at the time in the days before hops get picked. And we know from Simcoe and the cattiness and things like that that when you pick hops makes a huge it varies variety to variety, and it varies by your terroir and your latitude and all that stuff. When you pick your hops, makes a big difference about how those hops taste.
Right. Yeah, they're
So,
reaching that point where they're fully grown, and
Yep.
you pick at the height of their
Yep.
plumpness before the vines start to decline and things start
Yeah.
to dry out a little bit, or whatever. It's just it makes sense that they would change a lot in that time frame. It seems like to me. I'm not
That's
no
a good point.
agriculturist, but
Oh, no,
yeah.
but it's a good point. But the way you said that made me think, hops, maybe it's like peaches or apples where they're quote unquote ripe at a certain time, and trying to figure out when they're ripe to pick them is important. And you don't want to pick them right at the peak of ripeness, because then they're going to do nothing but decline. You want to maybe pick them a day before they're quote ripe, and then you'll get the flavor you expect. But this what Stan says makes a lot of sense, that these oils increase and can change right before picking. Uh, and his belief is that wet hops are going to produce different odor compounds from those essential oils than dried hops. Again, that also makes sense because I like apples, I like applesauce, but they're different. And what makes a fresh apple is going to get, and JP's, yeah, of course they're different. He's like, what the fuck,
No,
Shar? What are you
I just think
talking
it's
about
very
this?
funny. We're like, I like apples and I like
I
applesauce.
like apples,
Like a big
but
child.
I like applesauce, but or apple pie. But when you cook the
Yeah.
apples, they taste real good. Like apple pie is good, but
Well,
it's different.
it's only good because you put a bunch of sugar and spices in it. But
Yeah, and you
cooked apple on its
caramelize it.
own,
Yeah.
fucking no, dude, that sucks.
That's a good point. You stick an
Yeah.
apple over a campfire, it's probably going to be fucking inedible.
Well, yeah.
You don't want to eat that shit. But
No.
Dubious food.
but when you cook something, it can still be good versus when it wasn't cooked, but it's going to be different.
Well, you know what? Actually, to stick with your apple analogy, it's like a fresh Granny Smith versus those apple rings, dehydrated apple rings.
Yes, yes.
That because those are still great, and you get the core flavor, no pun
Yes.
intended. But you miss a lot of that nuance that
Yeah.
it gets lost with the moisture, in the skin and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Moisture,
that's
yeah.
exactly right. It's exactly right. So that's it's a way to wet hopping. You only do it once a year. It's a way to play with some agricultural ingredients. We were talking about this earlier in the show. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. You're just taking a chance on some grower you have a relationship with, and you like the hops they make, and you're just going to take a few bushels and just shove them into some beer and see what happens.
Trying to do something cool and
Yeah.
different and unique
Yeah.
and fitting with the season.
Exactly. And that really appeals to craft brewers and to home brewers, just to do something different for the sake of doing something different. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's not. See, Vinny compares, scrolling down here, there are some, one of the wet hop beers that's maybe a little bit easier to get. These are beers you can't always get very readily in a lot of the US, and it's not even as big of a deal in the Bay as it used to be. But, Sierra Nevada, their Northern Hemisphere beer, that's available now on their website. And there's about 8 or 10 states they ship to. So if you're in California, they definitely ship there. If you're curious and want to try that, again, I'm not trying to, ingratiate myself with Sierra Nevada. It's just the fact they're a large craft brewer, and if you're in one of the states they ship to, and you want to try these beers out, that's a way you might be able to get a hold of one.
Yeah.
Also, it's as we record this, it's September 26th. By the time when this show hits the Podwave archive things and it's able to get downloaded, it's run to your local good beer store if you're curious, and see what they got. Ask them what they got for wet hop beer. It's the time when they're going to have it. So typically people will add these wet hops to like the end of the boil or to a whirlpool, and people have to add a whole lot. Again, Russian River, they make a beer called Hop Time Harvest. Vinny, being Vinny, does 2 wet hop additions, one in the kettle at the end of the boil, and then he does a second harvest after fermentation, and then kind of dry hops with the second harvest wet hop.
See, and so these hops being the prices that they are, and
Yeah.
ingredients the price that they are, and the labor, like you gotta, I think you gotta be either insane or a genius or both to want
Yes.
to do that. Like that to me, there's
Yes.
so much risk involved in that.
Yes. Yes.
But
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
risk. And that's what craft brewers and home brewers do. I mean, you do some creative stuff, and maybe we all don't do as much crazy creative stuff as we did 10 years ago, but some of those crazy creative things were nonsense. So they were
yeah, I sort
terrible.
of feel like the creativity and the creativity is still there, but it's less so. I think the craziness is gone for the most part because all that shit's been done. And
Yeah, and
craft
it's
beer
expensive
and
to do
home
crazy
brewing have
shit.
they're so open with their information,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, don't do that. And I will always go back to the example of John
Exactly.
Plissé
Oh,
years and years and years and years and years ago, where he brewed a beer with every single grain that we had in stock at Morebeer just to see what happened. I'm like, that's gonna taste like shit. Are you both frozen?
Mm-mm.
No, Cooper's there. Shard's fucked up.
I'm I'm enthralled with your story, JP.
Oh yeah, sure. It's so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like
And did it come out horribly? Was it?
Yeah, it was awful.
It was
Terrible.
awful.
Yeah. I mean,
I
of
made
course it
a
was.
beer with like, I called it multiple personality beer. I had like 16 different grains and 16 different hops. I was like,
Yeah, it's too much.
It was
It's too much.
modeled very
So,
mixed, just
yeah.
odd.
So I feel like that's why to Char's point, we're not making so many, wild beers anymore because it's been done. We know what works now and what doesn't.
But
Yes.
yet someone's out there making a chocolate fruited quad milkshake IPA. So
Dude.
yeah, that doesn't taste like IPA at all.
or
Oh,
milkshake.
yeah.
Or zombie cocktail inspired beers. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a home brewer and you want to make a beer like this, how do you do this at home? Well, you you grow some hops yourself, or you source some hops close to you. There are vendors that will sell to individuals, home brewers. You probably are going to have to buy like 20 pounds of hops, but I was checking it out, and like Hophead Farms in Michigan, there's a place called Four Star Farms. Where are they? They'll sell directly to individuals. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm on
They have-
their website right now. You can get 25 pounds or more at $7 a pound.
Yeah, and that's if you're a homebrew club that and you want to do this and all
not
you
bad.
have a number of people each make this, yeah, you can buy 20 pounds and have split that between 4, 5, 6 brewers and see what happens. That's fun. It'd be a fun group project that you're not trying to figure out how to use 20 pounds of wet hops yourself. That'd be a long ass brew day.
Are you going to talk, Char, about how much to use and stuff like that?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. So you want to do that. What I've read I've never brewed. Cooper and I were talking. Between shows, neither one of us has brewed a wet hop beer. So what I'm kind of giving you as advice, the things that I've read and not based on my own experience, but things that seem to make sense. So take this all with a grain of salt and do your own research before you make one of these and invest the time and money. If you have wet hops you don't use, within 24 hours, freeze them. That's, you're going to have an issue with, when you dry the flowers, you're going to boil off some of the oil. When you freeze them, you're going to dehydrate them somewhat, and you're going to have issues there too. But at least it keeps them from molding if you freeze them. There are some, I in the course of looking around, I didn't find the hop farm that does this. There's at least one. It might be Crosby Farms or YCH. At least one of the big hop growers will like freeze dry or flash freeze these wet hops, and then they can ship them wherever. And it's expensive to ship because you got to keep them frozen, but it lets you get hops from there to wherever.
And it's funny because I just texted Jamil because I remember him talking on a Brew Strong once about I don't know if it was the big hop growers, but it was a company who sort of did that. I don't know if it was flash freezing or I remember some conversation he was having with the guys about hop technology to package hops to keep the freshness longer,
right?
Which is good because you were saying, like if you package them and they're not airtight, Or if they are airtight, then they get moldy really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And if they're airtight, then they dry out, and then you sort of like lose the point of the whole thing. So they're very,
Right.
very fragile.
Right. And that's where this 24-hour thing seems to be key. And
Yeah.
when people ship these, the bigger craft breweries can afford to have, 1,000 pounds of these air freighted to wherever it is their brewery is. But
Yeah.
I've read, those boxes get shipped and they got holes in them because you don't want them to dry out, but you don't want them to get all wet inside a sealed container.
It's the
Then you'll just start
Goldilocks
molding.
ingredient, man. Yeah, for
It
sure.
really is. A thing that I hadn't thought about is because you're picking these things fresh, there will be bugs.
Yeah.
So the hot whirlpool / late boil edition seems to be pretty key. I don't know how Vinny manages to do it at the end of fermentation without acquiring bugs at Russian River. I mean, if anyone can do that, Russian River can.
Who's to
But-
say he doesn't?
That's a good point. You just eat the bugs. But
There's
you
so many.
filter it.
I was talking to my brother-in-law is in the wine industry, and he's like, yeah, bugs go in. They
Yeah.
just go in to ferment, and
Yeah, shit
because
happens.
there's one batch, it's like infamous. It was from several years ago, infamous around the Napa area of like, it's called like the ladybug batch, because there were so many ladybugs, and they didn't really catch a lot of them. But like when you're cleaning out the fermenters, there's just fucking ladybugs dead in there,
Right.
and it's like that's what happens. It's part of
I
it,
believe
and
it. I
whatever.
believe it. I
Yeah.
believe it, but that's where, at a homebrew level, especially you're not filtering, you're not whatever, especially if you're going to be a little sensitive to that and not want to be drinking bugs. Yeah, you want to put those in the hot whirlpool late boil to be sure you kill them, and then maybe stick around in the trube at the bottom of your kettle.
Maybe.
So you maybe.
Yeah.
So the wet hops are about 80% water. So
They're
you
wet.
want to what's that?
They're wet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're wet.
Literally.
Yeah, that's right. They're literally wet. And it's the oils, it's the water, it's everything. I mean, you get flowers at Safeway, for your wife or your husband or significant other or whatever, and you touch those flowers because they've been in the water in the buckets at Safeway, and those flowers are kind of wet because they're alive. They're living plants, and like animals or anything else, they got a lot of water in them. So yeah, they're wet. So you want to use 4 to 6 times more than you would either pellets or dried hop flowers.
4 to 6 times more.
4 to 6 times more. So if you would use in your aroma hopping, let's say if you were going to use a pound of pellet hops, for a homebrew level, let's say we use 8 ounces of pellet hops, you probably want to use like, say 40 ounces. Of wet
Suddenly
hops,
that
48
20
ounces.
20-pound bale of hops you're buying doesn't go as far as with as many brewers, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sorry. Only 3 of us can brew, guys.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, the other thing is too, with all that moisture in the hops, you also have to account for it in your water additions. Like
Mhm.
it's water being added to and with that much
Yep.
You
being
do?
added, literally. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, when you're adding like
You'll miss your
you're
gravity if
adding
you
like
don't.
3 or 4 pounds of wet hops and they're 80% water, how many ounces of water is 0.8 times 3 pounds? You're getting like maybe 2+ pounds of water. I don't know what that volume works out to be, but it's
You're
not
gonna miss
inconsequential.
you could miss your gravity by a few points for sure. It's not a
Wow.
crazy amount, but you do have to adjust a little bit if you
Yeah.
want to, if you're nuts about hitting the right numbers and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I never would have thought of that. And
Yeah,
I was actually
exactly.
going to ask, like, do you think that the water, I don't know. I don't know how to say this. So I'm just going to ask it. And I want you to, if it's a dumb
Just out.
question, just
If it's-
forget that I even asked it. Pretend that you brought it
I'm
up.
waiting for this question.
Okay. The water inside the hops, do you think that the water, I don't even know how to phrase it, man. Do you think the water impacts the flavor? Sans hops, right? But like the quality of water, the type of water,
Yeah.
the minerality in the water, let's say, or whatever, impacts the
Well, it's just it's a
beer?
part of the agricultural product. It's
Yeah, I
in the
know,
it
but, like,
grew
it's a good-
in the
it's a good
plant.
question
Came up
because
from
it-
the ground. It
So-
filtered through the plant.
Well,
Here's-
they suck up your wort too. So it's unless you squeeze them, like
Yeah.
squeeze that bag or put them in a colander and squeeze them out. I mean, you're adding water, but it's also sucking up wort that you would ideally want. And then squeezing has its own issues because yeah, that can potentially. I don't know. I always
Extract
worry about squeezing anything because are you getting flavors
or
out that you really don't want to be out?
green, like
Yeah.
chlorophyll kind of flavor. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pushes
well,
stuff out you don't
I
want
never
to.
believe in that, by the way, because like people go, "Oh, it's like squeezing a tea bag." It's like, yeah, but most people make their tea with boiling water, and that fucks it
Mhm.
up anyway. Like you're not supposed to do
That's a
that.
good point.
So it's already fucked. But I guess another way to ask it is if you took, and this is dumb, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I'm stupid. If you took all that water and you squeezed it out of the fresh hops, the wet hops, and you
Filled it
had
up into
the
a
water,
glass and then
yeah, and
drank
then you
it.
had it in a glass and you added that to your beer. Like, what would those flavors
Mm.
taste like, separated from like the lupulin, glands and stuff like that? Like, I would be super interested to
green
like
and
press that.
grassy and plant like. It probably just tastes
Yeah.
like drinking a green like fruit,
Or
like one of those green drinks that you get like super greens, whatever.
Like drinking a
Yeah.
kale shake.
Kale shake.
Because some of that stuff
Mm.
is getting in. That's
Yeah,
I
it
mean, I
is.
guess thinking about it, that's the green grassy stick stuff that we're
Yeah.
talking about that lends the extra flavors to these beers.
It's
Right.
still comparatively less than what's the malt to use, I think, but
Sure, yeah,
using
yeah,
ounces rather than pounds for
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah,
in a homebrew scale. But
All right.
exactly. Now, last
Some
thing I was going
questions
to say.
aside, we're done.
Yeah. Last thing I was going to say, and then Cooper may have some other thoughts about this as well, or you Jason. Because you're going to be using so many or such a high volume of wet hop, you might be putting in 3 pounds, you know, of wet hops in your kettle. They'll take up a lot of room in your kettle, and if a lot of people, at various times throughout the years, I've had a kettle that was drastically undersized. You need to think about that. If you're brewing and you're always got your water like this far, you're a half an inch or an inch from the top. That's not a good idea because you're gonna boil over.
You're not
You don't
doing a
want to
wet hop.
boil over on
Sorry.
your stove or out in your yard. It sucks no matter where you do it.
yeah,
So you either need to think about getting a bigger kettle, borrowing it from a friend, going out and buying that new one finally, or dropping down your batch size because it's those wet hops. Sometimes with pellet hops, you can kind of just get away with adding more because the volume isn't that high. You can add more, and they seem to just dissolve in your wort, and your
right.
kettle size is fine. The wet hops are going to they're going to weigh a lot, and they're going to take up volume. And if you don't account for that, you might have a lot of cleanup to do after you're done.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And on a homebrew scale, it's maybe less of a problem than on a commercial scale where
Yes.
I was talking to a brewer that did it, and like they literally their boil kettle would not accommodate this. It would not work. And they're using pellets and that's it. And it works, but they don't have a screen on the bottom of their kettle to hold hops up. It's just to have it. So they actually like just ended up cleaning out their mash tun really well and running the wort from the kettle into the mash tun again and putting the hops in there, which is kind of brilliant because you can whirlpool them. They had a tangential flow in there. They could let the hops circulate, the wort circulate through the hops.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they were able to just open up their mash tun and scoop out all the hops into buckets and get rid of them.
That's
it's
great. That's a cool idea.
Back into their mash tun. But
Yeah.
the same brewer told me too. They were brewing, and the FedEx flight, the freight got delayed.
Oh,
So they were
God.
like, oh, okay, we got to delay our brew. So like it turned from a 5 or 6 hour brew day into like 10 or 15 hours or something, because there was like they're tracking it. It's like, oh, okay, it's finally moving, and
What
okay,
you
just
get when you use FedEx.
drop it down to a low simmer, like I don't know, but
Yeah, I'm sure that story is played out.
Yeah, that's
breweries and
happened.
homebrew areas across the world, man.
And I
I'm
think
sure.
too, like hops, if you're like trucking them in from somewhere, like you go to the hop field and you bring them, you kind of have to be careful because there's so much hop matter if you're in a truck where you can like get the aromatics from the hops. So like hops have kind of a like people have hop pillows like for to put themselves to sleep a little better. It's like all these hop components can kind of go to your head and make you a little sleepy, I think, if you get too much of them in your
See,
breathing.
that's why I get tired when I drink a beer. It's not because of the alcohol, it's the hops.
Yeah, it's the hops, exactly.
Yeah.
Or you got to be careful, like where my brother-in-law takes hops in his suitcase back to Denmark when he's in America, and he's got like, they open up his suitcase, and he's got like 5 pounds of weed, and he's got to explain, no, these are hops. It's okay.
What is this?
Yeah, it's fine.
Very good, Char. Thanks, man. Thanks for putting that together.
No, certainly. And for homebrewers who want to learn more, Homebrewers Association has an article. Just search on Homebrewers Association. Our friends at More Beer, just search on there for an article called "Brewing Fresh Hops." I was checking their website to see if they might sell wet hops, and they don't appear to do so. It's probably such a niche product; it'd be kind of a waste, but.
It's hard. It's hard to do because it's like because you're the middleman. Basically, it's not going to come from More Beer.
But find a friend that grows them, or grow your own. Get some rhizomes in the spring and in March, April, and depending where you live, of course.
Make contact with your local hop farm if there's one within an easy drive of you.
Yeah. Do that for sure. And I've heard that hops are sort of like overabundant now, so they're probably decent price.
Nice.
I think some of this came up during like 2008, like the hop crisis, when hop prices started going up really crazy. People were like,
the hop crisis.
Cool. Interest in
you guys want to drink this Ghost Town Scissor Hash?
Yeah, well, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and we're going to do that and wrap it up. So hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew, wet hop stuff, baby. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for hanging on, everyone. We are going to crack, actually, I've already done it because I'm an overachiever, this Ghost Town beer called Scissor Hash, I believe is the name. And it is a wet hop beer, and I kind of like it. It's very different. I put that Altamont in the other room because I would have loved to taste them side by side. But it's a great beer. Cooper, is this a beer you've run across?
No, but I had another Strata hop, and it was the brewer that I was talking about. It was Craig from Shadow Puppet did a collab with Del Cielo, and they made up in Martinez, and they made a wet hop Strata beer, and they brought it. We had a talk on wet hops at our last Mad Zymergist meeting at Shadow Puppet, and he brought some of that beer for us to share and taste together. And we also had the Maui wet hop there too. So it was like two competitors' beers coming in, but their Strata wet hop smelled a lot like this one does that we just opened up. I'm like, that the Strata hop, and I don't know if it's also from Thompson Farms, but they so these guys source from there. I'm not sure where they source these, but it's I believe that like I said, the Del Cielo ones were flown in from the Pacific Northwest, but it was Strata, and this may have been the same flown in from the Northwest.
I would imagine. I mean, if you're a Bay Area brewery and you want to do wet hop beer, and you have if you have a hop farm in your backyard, you're gonna use it. Even maybe it's a little bit,
Yeah.
This smells funny really good.
You may remember 2-3 years ago, we did a show. We were going to start doing some single hop beers to try them, and we did Strata, and then we stopped. And we did like 2 Strata single hop beers, and we didn't like either one that much. And that was kind of the overall opinion. I was wary of this beer based on that. I really like this. I think this is really, well made.
It's a powerful beer. It's 7.2%.
Yes. It's much less amber than the Maui Wowie.
Yeah. The alcohol is coming into play here. You can smell a little, little alcohol, but it's like
smells boozy.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's, I think that the Altamont beer was a little bit of kind of a 1 or 2 trick pony kind of. It had that, some of the, the melon and grass and a little bit of dank underneath there or two, but
I'm gonna go get
this one. This one's a little brighter, tropical up front to me.
Agreed.
And a diesel, tropical diesel and citrus.
Yeah.
A little dank as well, but
it's not as dank as the Maui Wowie. It's
complex and harmonious, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
I haven't tasted it yet, so yeah.
For being a one hop beer, the Maui Wowie, they don't tell us like what the hops are here. We know it's they're from Thompson Farms, but they don't tell us what variety or varieties. You were saying you think it's cashmere.
Yeah.
But
I think this might be, get the 2024 Strata hop harvest. It seems like the harvest was good.
yeah, agreed. This is much different than I remember the Strata having been before, and I like this a lot. And it's really well attenuated. Yes, a little boozy,
Yeah.
and I think it's maybe more. The Maui Wowie has more malt supporting the wet hop, and I get what what you're saying about how it's maybe like that Saint Rogue Red Ale wet hopped. It's maybe tilted toward that end of the spectrum.
Yeah,
This
a little
Ghost
bit.
Town's a bit more like modern IPA. Malt is
Yeah.
definitely in the background, and the hops are the star.
Yeah, the Altamont. I went and got the Altamont. There's more diversity of flavor.
Yes.
Do you get any kind of grapefruity quality out of it? Like, where does this? It's any kind of citrus twist, one way or another. Lemony, limey, grapefruity.
Yeah, I guess.
I get
A little bit.
A little pith in the Altamont.
But yeah, what I think that is, what I'm getting is like chewing on a hop stem. Which I've done because that's what these taste like to me sometimes. So that's what I mean, where it's like the depth of flavor, the breadth of flavor. There's a lot more strata. I don't know. there's a lot more on the spectrum of flavors, where the Ghost Town is very focused. It's still broad and it's still different, but the differences in these flavors are wild. And it kind of tastes like the Altamont. If I didn't know better, I would think the Altamont had a little higher alcohol. Or it's higher than it needs to be, but
because of the additional malt, I think, because we're used to thinking, aside from like stouts, sometimes that the maltier some of these beers are, the more alcohol is going to be there.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah. Another thing to be said about these beers too is none of these beers are probably all wet hop beer. Like, you don't really want to use a wet hop for your bittering because you don't know what's in it. You don't know where the alpha is. You want to use kind of a neutral or a known alpha acid for your bittering. It would
be a waste.
It would be kind of a waste. Yeah, you're just boiling the hell out of this fresh hop that you just harvested. So they may blend it with other hop products. It may be a mix, but it's got fresh hops in it, I'm sure, and probably the majority of the hops in it are from fresh hop. But where they use it and how they use it is kind of unknown. So we just have to taste it and say what we like about each one, and next time we'll get the brewers on to talk about the process.
For sure. I would be nice to talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing. Yeah, I don't know. Shar, thanks for picking these up. I appreciate it and running them around.
It's my pleasure.
They are very different, and you sort of what I think a lot of people do is they besmirch the good name of wet hop beer because it sounds like wet hop is an ingredient rather than a stage of the vast different ingredients that brewers use all the time. You know what I mean? Oh, a wet hop beer. Well, they must have bought a wet hop from the wet hop farm and then it tastes like wet hop. And that's not the case at all. So in these two beers, they're both IPAs. They're both made in the West Coast style, and they're different beers, entirely different beers. They're very, very different.
And like wet hop beer is very different from wet dog beer.
Yes, that's true. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think the Scissor Hash from Ghost Town I like it better than the Altamont beer because it doesn't I don't know why. I think it's a lighter tasting beer. It's that malt, I think. And it's it's like they focused more of the fresh hop, wet hop flavors than the Altamont. I don't know how to I don't know how else to like really describe that.
I think they're both real good, but just in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. They're very different. I'm not saying the Altamont's worse, but I will say I just poured them both. The Altamont has been open for a while, which is right here. The head is different than the Ghost Town, so I think the Altamont has more carbonation, which I think does lend a lot of that. Maybe bitterness or something like that. Maybe carry some of that. Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see. I mean, already the Ghost Town is like the head is just now it's like lacy kind of on the sides.
Yeah.
It's not, and the Altamont is still, I don't know, eighth of an inch, quarter inch, whatever. So I would love to see a little more carbonation in the Ghost Town for sure.
Yeah.
But it tastes like a Ghost Town beer to me. I sip their IPAs, when I can get them fairly regularly because they're available out here and they have a good name.
Okay.
They've they've won a few awards in recent years and
Yeah.
people know them.
Yep.
They have a good reputation but I enjoy tasting them. I enjoy going there. When my brother came out, I took him to Altamont and Ghost Town. We had good beers at each one and very good beers at each one. They Ghost Town has a certain flavor to their IPAs that there's a brightness to the late hop character that I really like about that. Yeah, but yeah, and it has also I'm getting kind of a diesely flavor in this one that is not in the other one. It's like a Nelson a sharp little diesely, and some people hate that. If you don't like diesely beers, this one's probably not going to.
It. I don't like diesely beers, but I can deal with it. It's like cat piss. I can deal with it.
Yeah,
you accept it, but there's a saturation point.
There's a fine line
Where it's too
between
much.
tropical and straight, like drinking diesel fuel, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna blend them, and then we're gonna get out of here.
According to
Okay.
Untapped, Ghost Town gets these hops from Coleman Hops in Oregon, which is just north of Salem.
Okay.
All right, there you go. Blended,
Cool.
it's pretty good. Blended, I get a lot more tropical,
Mhm.
like green mango
Yeah.
kind of thing. I look blended. The sum of the parts are definitely better than the individual parts or whatever. I said.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody across the country, go get yourself an Altamont Wet Hop Maui and the Scissor Hash from Ghost Town and just blend them together. You can
And blend them together, man.
Or you know what? Just go to your local good beer store. When this podcast comes out and you listen to it, go to your local good hop store right now, right away when you hear this, and just go see what wet hop beers they got, man. Just go check them out.
Definitely.
Support your local good beer store and do yourself a favor and drink one of these, no matter which brewery it's from.
Here's what I want to do. Here's my pitch to all the commercial brewers out there who listen to the show, which is mainly Barry from Lucky Envelope in Seattle, but
thank you, Barry.
and
How you
maybe
doing,
Dave.
Barry?
Yeah, maybe Dave Marlalov, whatever.
Hi, Dave.
Here's what I want people to do. I want them to do a collaboration beer, but not brew a beer. Is they take existing beers that they have and blend them together into a separate beer. That's their collaboration. I think that'd be fucking hilarious.
I think that Dave Marliovovo should drive up to Lucky Envelope because he's going to have an adventure of some kind. He's going to, his leg will come off or he'll make a beer, in the back of his car while he's driving or something. And he'll have an adventure and he'll get there and they'll mix them all together and then it'll be fun.
And then he'll evaporate into the ether. I mean, knowing Dave, he would take his leg off and then graft it to Barry's back while Barry was passed out on the grain bags. That's what would happen.
And probably Warren would have some hilarious things to say about that while he's watching that whole thing.
Warren hasn't had a funny thing to say in his entire life.
It's evolving, but his Christmas cards are great.
Oh yes,
that's true. Well, only because his wife makes him do it.
Yes.
All right, everybody. If you want to get on the show and listen to us ramble on about your beers, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com and we'll get you sorted out. And, of course, we don't always take just beer. We'll take kombucha, cider, mead, whiskey, whatever you want. I tried to make real fast, and we're going to wrap it up. I tried to make soy sauce a couple weeks ago. I got there's a place in Oakland, actually. Big shouts out to, I don't remember the name, but a place in Oakland where you can get the koji from. And I ordered, it was $8 for the koji and $10 for shipping. I'm like, shit my pants, but whatever. And it didn't
do
cheaper
well. Than the gas to drive there and pick it up and get
back. Yeah, but it's also Oakland. So,
ingredient wise though, it's what is it?
What?
Wheat. What's in it? The soy sauce.
Well, you have soybeans, and then you inoculate it with wheat.
Wheat. So I know there was wheat was involved somehow.
Yeah, wheat. And then you mix the koji with the wheat, and then you sprinkle it on the things, and you keep it at a certain temperature, which I didn't do. Anyway, long story short, fucking sucked. I had to throw it away. There's a Koji forum on Reddit. And so I posted a picture. I was like, it has black spots. Is that good? And they said, no. Throw
That's
it
going
away.
to
I'm like,
die.
okay.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So God bless Reddit for like a place to like help shit out. But
No, drink it. It'll be good. Drink some. It'll be fantastic.
it'll be
That's
fun. Well,
Mm.
so you have the beans,
yeah.
and then you let the mold grow on the beans, and then you add it to salt water, and then you let that go for like 6 months, and then you strain it off, and then you can age it for however long you want to age it. So if you're
Okay.
making soy sauce, if you're making tempeh, if you're whatever you ferment, send it in. We'll judge it, and if we don't know what we're talking about, we'll find somebody who does. So
Yeah,
you know,
your
Chia.
experience is like when I tried to make tempeh in the late 70s when I was a kid.
no way,
And
really.
oh my God, it was this moldy fucking mess. I think I made
Oh,
natto, and I looked at it, and my mom looked at it. We're both like, "We're not eating that shit. Come on,
I tried to
throw
make
throw
tempeh
that away,
too.
Brian."
Really,
And my
I
mom
gotta
did not
figure-
have to like convince me real hard to throw it out.
It's funny because like it's it's all mold and I guess it's ferment. I don't even think it's fermentation. It's just you're
No.
letting shit mold with the specific spore, right?
Which is
Whoa.
like fermentation.
I guess I don't know, but you have to be very specific with your temperature
Mhm.
because it's like oh fuck, I just lost the analogy.
Hefeweizen?
Certain spores won't grow at certain temperatures.
Ah,
You have to like keep it at like 100 to 104. You have to keep it kind of moist, but not too moist. And it's just like this whole like really controlled.
Kind of like how when you're
thing.
out foraging for mushrooms in the woods and you find one that oh, it looks like it might be a this or it
that's
might be
gotta
a
be a morel.
death mushroom.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just gonna go to the ER now and then eat it in the parking lot and see what
Mm.
happens. All right, we're gonna get out of here, everybody. Thanks a lot for participating in our little show. I appreciate it. Don't forget to email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. And until next time, we will see you later.